Okay, we're live.
Hey everyone, it's Ken and Kathy Cushman with Cushman Coaching and Consulting.
And this is Let's Talk About What Really Matters.
And we're talking about relationship again.
Yeah, this is one of our favorite topics. A lot of you know that. Just from our own experience through the work and through these 44 years together. I think relationship is one of the most important things we could be talking about.
Yeah, and I was telling Ken the other day, I saw this thing about a study that they just did on happiness. And it was one of the longest studies they've ever done on happiness, and what they say...
Tell her, how many years? It was like 50 years.
Yeah, it was a really long study.
They studied the same people.
And they said they found out that the biggest key factor in happiness is relationships. And they said particularly as they were with these people as they got older, that the more and more they talked about how important relationship was to their happiness, or how integral it was to their happiness. So I thought that was very interesting.
You know, relationships are important. You know, a lot of times people say, oh, I don't need anybody. I've had this conversation with a lot of people. And I know that relationships are messy. And I'm not just talking about a primary relationship, like a romantic relationship, but any relationship. Mm-hmm. We're human beings. We have flaws. We have, defects of character. We have different protections. And, it can be messy. I used to ask people when I was in the training, like, how many of you want a relationship with that doesn't hurt? You don't want to be hurt. Right? And, I think 100% of the people raise their hand. They want a relationship where they won't be hurt. Mm-hmm. But the reality of it is it's impossible. Mm-hmm. In relationships, we will be hurt. Even in the best relationships.
Yeah.
I mean, you and I have an incredible relationship, and sometimes, things happen, and we get frustrated or we're hurt. Mm-hmm. And, it's easy to have a relationship when things are going well. And everybody's happy and joyful. And I think people think that that's what you're supposed to have.
Yeah.
But that's really not life.
No, not, and like anything in life. Mm-hmm. And like anything else, the more you put into it, like if you put into it what you want, you will have what you want. You will get what you want.
The more you put in, the more you're going to get out.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a universal principle.
Yes, exactly, with anything. And particularly with relationships, I think if you feel like you're looking to experience connection and love, or maybe you're looking to experience vulnerability, or maybe you're looking to experience being heard, like really having someone get you or understand you. I think for me that one of the important things is, in order to get that, I have to give that. Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah, I've seen people popping in and out. Let us know you're here. Say hi. If you have a question, shoot us a question. Or if you have a comment or something you just like to share, please don't hesitate to do that. We'll be happy to answer it. We're talking about relationships if you're just jumping on now.
Yeah. And, that it takes effort. It takes great relationships don't just happen.
Mm-hmm. Well, I was thinking about that today. And, a lot of times people say, well, I want to work on my relationship. Well, mm-hmm. I'm not sure there's anything like the relationship to work on. That's more of I want to say this, like a context. Right? Mm-hmm. Relationship is like a context. So I'm not working on the relationship. What do I need to do to make the relationship better? What I want to do is work on myself. Mm-hmm. Right? I want to bring me, the best me to the relationship. Right? To create what it is I'm committed to creating. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the cool thing about really standing in like an ownership place, or a place mm-hmm. of responsibility, that I'm creating the relationship. Because then that gives you, I think it gives you permission, or it gives you the possibility of creating what you want. Because if it's up to me, then I have some control over the situation. So, creating the relationship, I want to design myself. how I'm being and my actions consistent with what I want in the relationship to show up in the relationship. Not I'm going to go work over here on the relationship and then
Right.
I'll feel better. I work over here and then I create an environment or a space,
For the
For relationship.
relationship to flourish.
yeah, or to grow.
Yeah.
It's like planting a seed in the garden. If the soil's not taken care of, the seed's not going to grow. And the relationship would be like the plant. And so I want to make sure that the soil is right, the fertilizer's right, the water's right. I want to feed it. I want to nurture it. And that's through me and how I'm being. So being the context or being the ways of being that are consistent with what I've committed to creating.
I think for me, and I hadn't thought about this until you said that about working on the relationship. I think sometimes when I do that, when I say, oh, I need to work on my relationship, it's really me saying, I need to fix you. Right? Because it's not about me, it's about something outside of me. When really it's not. Right? My relationship is a result of, like you said, the context that I create.
I think about 90%, I want to say, and it's a pretty high number, but 90% of couples that I've worked with start off when they want coaching, they're looking to fix their partner so the relationship will be better.
Well, that's why I did the trainings.
Ah.
You know that? I did
I think I remember that. I don't think about it a lot because then it makes me think about how was I that you wanted to do the trainings to fix our relationship.
No, not to fix the relationship, clearly to fix you.
Oh.
I thought I'd go and have a fun few days. It'd be fine. That I'd really like it. And then,
Well,
but
yeah.
I thought you would get a lot of value out of it. Like, could really support you.
Well,
I
thank
thought
you
I
very
was
much.
just going to have fun.
Well, it must have worked.
Well, because I actually got some work done.
Well, here we are almost, 32 years later
Yeah.
from when we did the training? No, 30 years later from when we did the training.
Yeah.
And we're still together.
Yep. Well, and I didn't do it to fix the relationship. I thought it would be really good for you. I thought,
Fix me.
Yeah, I thought it would fix you. And I think at least for me, sometimes when I say, I'm working on the relationship, I'm really,
Working on me.
yeah,
Yeah,
thinking
it's
that
funny.
way.
I wish I could see people's hands and ask this question. How many of you out there want to fix your partner? I bet you a lot of your hands would go up.
Yes.
Because that's absolutely the problem.
That was sometimes we feel that way.
Like, it's
now,
over there.
Now, let me say this. I want to put a little caveat here for, and I'm just going to say this as a woman. For women, if you're listening and you're in an abusive relationship, this is a completely different conversation. Right? We're completely different conversation. But for most relationships, right, really, you are 100% have the ability to create what you want.
I believe that too.
Yeah, I do believe that with people who are in abusive relationships also, but I think it's a different context and a different conversation,
Absolutely.
right? So you got to know where you're at in your relationship, right? Because some people are like, we've been together forever, and we kind of know each other, and we're both always working on ourselves, and so I think that's part of what makes it work. Right?
Hey, Gita, how are you?
Hey! How you doing?
We're doing great. I thought I sent you a message at the beginning of the month, and I'm just going to say this right now. You actually were in the drawing and got the scholarship in January for the part 1. Contact me.
Oh, wow! Good.
I hadn't heard back to you. I was going to call you today. So everybody out there, this is Ken and Kathy with Cushman Coaching and Consulting, and this is our live Facebook Normal Thursday. I guess it's a podcast, but
It's our chat.
let's talk about what matters, and we're still talking about relationships.
Yes. Because I think it's one of I think it's key to pretty much everything in life is relationships. And not necessarily primary relationship, but all relationships. And one of the things that I thought was really interesting was this study that I had heard about, they were saying how important even those very casual relationships are, like those people that you know from the grocery store, or that you see walking your dog down the street, or but you don't really kind of know them, but maybe you stop and ask them how their day is, and that those interactions are really important to supporting us in our happiness. And I think for you do that a lot. Like, you talk to everybody. I don't do that. And so I think that's something that I want to work on, because relationships are important. All different kinds of relationships are important.
I know, going back 30 years, when we first started doing the work, I looked at the relation of my life, and I had a lot of friends.
Mm-hmm.
At least I thought were friends. But as I started learning about relationship or relating to other people, I realized I really didn't know people. It was very surface.
Yes.
Thinking about the study you talked about the number one thing to be happy was relationships. What I saw is, as I grew through the trainings and got closer to some of the people in my training or in my small group and some of the other people I worked with, I started building really deep, connected relationships that I'd never had before. I mean, it wasn't like I thought I had deep, connected relationships with people. I mean, it was friendly, and I'm kind of outgoing. And what I found out, though, was there was a lot of work that I needed to do on myself. And so, as I worked with other people and deepened those relationships, my relationships with people outside of the workshops or the trainings started getting deeper. I started actually being myself with people versus being my image or being what I thought people wanted me to be. So really being authentic. And for me, the friendships that I have today are one of the most valuable things that I have.
Yeah.
Right?
Me too.
Is those
Yeah.
relationships.
And I think some of it is, I want to say, practice, right? That we don't always know what we're doing in relationship, and sometimes we mess up, and we've got to be willing to admit that when you do. Whether it's a primary relationship or a friendship relationship, I think it's really important to be willing to go, oh, hey.
We just got a like from one of my old friends, Ralph Campbell. Hey, Ralph, thanks for watching, being out there. There's a friendship and a relationship that before the trainings I would have never had.
Yeah.
Just in the direction he was going in life, we probably would have never met. He was in insurance and that. And we met through the work and created some pretty cool things. I actually work here today because of the relationship that I created with Ralph. And so thank you, Ralph.
Yeah.
We love you too, buddy.
Yeah, and sometimes I think, for me, I have to remember I've got to work at those relationships too, right? I don't think about it, and not like work on those relationships, but put effort into. Mm-hmm. And I think I don't think about that with you, because it just seems like, of course, I'm going to put effort into my primary relationship. But I don't think about always putting the effort into my friendship relationships.
Well, I think for a lot of people, I know for me, that during the pandemic pushed a lot of us away from people.
Yeah.
We isolated somewhat, and it did create some more distance. And we had a reason, an excuse. And I know for some people who it's, opening up or connecting relationships uncomfortable or challenging,
right?
That actually supported people at
as
disconnecting.
Not connecting.
And I think it's going to take us some more work, to really achieve what we had before.
Yes.
Right, and take it to the next level. So thank you for joining us. If you're out there, please comment. Let us know that you're there. Ask questions or share. We're talking about relationships.
It's Ken and Kathy Cushman with Cushman Coaching and Consulting.
We'd love to hear your experience too and what works for you, or it could be lessons about what didn't work for you. Everything's open
Yes,
here.
because we all have those too, those relationships that don't work well.
I know I was saying that, a lot of those couples I work with, they want something to do that will make it
Yes.
make it better. And I said, well, that's the easy thing, because what you have is within yourself. And that's access to yourself. Really what we can do is we can drop our masks and our image. I could say stop pretending. Sometimes it's an unconscious. Like, we've all learned to wear masks or to put up an image to, I don't know, fit in or possibly get people to like us. And really that just gets in the way. It doesn't create the depth, in creating an authentic relationship. So when I drop my mask and I open up, which is very vulnerable, it's scary out there.
Yeah, that's really hard.
It really is, because, someone could hurt me, might take advantage of me, might break my trust.
Might reject you.
Might be rejected.
Might reject me. That's what I think.
That's the uncomfortable part of relationships, and I think most of you know that, but there's some people think that if the uncomfortability there, then my relationship isn't working.
Right.
Where to me, it's the opposite. Right? It shows that where I need to work, it's uncomfortable, or it tells me I'm stepping into an uncomfortable place. Right? And the more risk that I can take, the more possibility of creating what it is that I want.
Yeah, I think that's really important, the idea of being willing to be vulnerable in the relationship and not necessarily need to do anything to fix the relationship. Right? Like, I don't need to, because in my history, what I would have done is look at what do I need to do, like, to be the right person so the relationship works, but not like in a healthy way. How to say that? More like what I would think you wanted me to be, right? Rather than, or what I would, what I would think you wanted me to be, rather than being authentic and being myself.
We talk about that model, right? The what do I need to do, right? So I can be
right,
and have versus who I'm going to be. So first, what's important, I think, is to get clear on the relationship I'm committed to creating.
Right.
The experience that I want in relationship. Right? So it's trust, open, loving. I get to be the source of that. So it starts with me, as we were saying before. One, based on this is what I want, an open, trusting, loving relationship, then I get to be that. Like, my way of being, my energy, and my actions consistent with an open, loving, trusting relationship. So I'm going to do things consistent with that. So if I'm being that authentically, then I believe my actions will follow. My actions come out of my context, out of who I'm being.
Right.
And then the results come. You have to create an environment that will support what you want. We talk about, this environment or a context. And there's one for relationships. If we look at that example in the physical world, I talk about this in the training sometimes, like the context or the environment desert. Right? So the context or the environment of a desert it's hot, it's dry, there's sand, cactus, right? Certain types of animals, right? So that's some of the content in that environment called desert. Right? Now if we look at a different context, like a rainforest. So looking at the content of that environment, you have shade, not a lot of sun, plenty of moisture, rich soil, different animals, flowers, plants, ferns, things like that. two different environments or two different contexts. The content in those environments or in those contexts can only survive in that context, in that environment. So let's say we take a flower or a fern, a plant from the rainforest, and we bring it over into the context of the desert. Well, does it survive? Does it flourish? No. Why? The context doesn't support it. There's not enough moisture. There's too much sun. It's dry. It just the soil is sand, and there's no minerals in it, so it can't survive. Just like if you took something out of that context of the desert and brought it into the rainforest, like a cactus. So in the rainforest, the cactus, right, has too much water. There's not enough sun. Right, the soil holds a lot of water, so it doesn't run off, and so eventually the cactus actually rots and dies. So, taking that example, and as we look at a relationship or the context or the environment relationship, what does it take to support? Well, it depends on the type of relationship that you want. So, if you're looking for an open, connected, loving relationship, then you want to create an environment where that can grow. Or that can show up, right? So if
and how you do that is be that.
Yeah, if I'm being closed, not trusting, afraid, protected, relationship doesn't survive in that context or that environment. But
it can't survive. It doesn't do very well. It doesn't flourish. So because I think there's a lot of people that have relationships that the context isn't what they want. That the context is still protect myself and stay safe, and I don't want this person to take advantage of me or hurt me.
And the relationship doesn't survive.
Yeah,
not sometimes a healthy relationship.
Yes, right.
You continue to have that disconnected, frustration, not trusting, all that kind of stuff.
Yes.
And for me, and I guess it's just for me, that's not the relationship that I really want to have show up in my life.
And usually relationships won't survive that, but they could, but they won't flourish. They'll just be more fear and doubt.
And my guess, it's not what you want.
No. Yes, I don't think that's what most people want.
It's the good news and the bad news, right?
It's up to you.
It's up to me.
Yeah.
Right? Which the good news about it's up to me is it gives me the power to have something happen. So if something doesn't work, then I can try something else. And if that doesn't work, I can try something else because I can keep choosing and keep creating different ideas, different actions to create what I want. I really believe that love is something that I create, not that comes from the relationship. I bring love to the relationship. So I get to be the source of love in the relationship. So my job in the relationship is to make sure that you feel love. And if it's not showing up, then I get to move myself and be and do things consistent with what I want to create. And sometimes I'm not always creating the experience of love.
But we're practicing. I think that's the other thing is sometimes people think that in order to be in a relationship, I need to be really good at this. I'm not always good at it, right? Like you said, relationships are messy. People don't always behave the way we want them to.
Yeah, I think people are messy.
Yes.
And we get all over the relationship.
Yes, exactly. But we bring all of our history sometimes and whatever into this moment, and that can be in the way of relationship.
If you're just joining us, it's Ken and Kathy with Cushman Coaching and Consulting, and we're talking about relationships. Feel free to comment, ask questions, let us know if you're out there, and we'd love to hear from you and what's working for you or what you use.
Or what questions you have.
Absolutely. So, going back to what we were talking about.
Okay. About the context of relationships.
If you stand that you are 100% responsible for the relationship, that's where you have power. if my job is to create the relationship, the experience of relationship for my partner, again, it brings me all the power. Right? It doesn't require anything from you.
Right.
Right? And sometimes I'm off. Right? And that's, again, part of being a human being.
Right.
We have those, life's on.
Yeah, I think that's one of the important reasons to have a supportive environment or a coach who can support you in when you're off. I know for me, sometimes, and let me say this, a lot of times when I'm off, I don't know that I'm off in that moment. Like, I don't necessarily realize that until later. So it's always good, and it's tough when the person you're in relationship is trying to tell you that you're off. Sometimes, because I know sometimes I don't hear you the same as other people, and you don't hear me the same as other people. And so...
Sorry to interrupt you. I want to put this in because this is important. Do not coach your partner.
Yes.
Let me say this again.
Yes.
Do not coach your partner.
Yeah.
Even if they ask you to.
Yeah, it doesn't work.
It really doesn't. And trust me, 30 years
Yes.
of doing this work, and I've learned the hard way, and still I want to support you.
Yes.
Right? And it's better if someone else. And there's sometimes when I know that you're talking to some of your friends and colleagues about and getting coaching from them, and there's part of me that sometimes goes, well, why didn't she ask me? Right?
Right.
And I know better.
Right.
Because my job is not to coach you, but to create the experience of love. Right? Connection, passion, joy. I'm committed to creating my relationship, and my job is not to fix you or to help you.
Right.
Right? And that gets in the way.
Right. I think definitely it's important to have someone outside of the relationship, whoever that is, that can be of a support.
And at a neutral support. I think
Yes.
we talked about that last week or the week before, but having a coach or having someone, a committed friend that's willing.
Or it could be like someone in your church or something, like your pastor or something. But someone who can be outside of you and be neutral.
Yeah, and that's really important.
Yes.
That they can be neutral, and that they're willing to tell you the things that you might not want to hear.
Yes.
Not a yes person that's going to agree with everything that you're saying.
Yes.
But someone that will say, hey, here's what I see. Getting that feedback from someone, it's important. Right?
Absolutely.
And then in one way, I can check how I'm experiencing something and get another outside perspective so I can make sure my interpretation or what I'm seeing isn't skewed by my own, mindsets and beliefs. We tend to bring the past into our relationship.
Yes.
Right? And that doesn't solve.
And all human beings do that, though. We kind of are wired that way or trained that way.
Yeah, whatever we do, not just with relationships. What we've learned in the past, everything that's happened up until now kind of directs the direction that we're going in. Right? So we kind of we make choices and we take actions based on what we know. And that comes from the past. And sometimes we get skewed with that. It doesn't always send us in the right direction.
Yeah, doesn't always.
That's why it's good to get that feedback from someone else, that other perspective, to make sure that you're on the right path, so to speak, or that you're seeing it in a way that's clear, not just through the filters that you have.
Yeah, really important. Anything else we want to talk about?
I'm trying to think. There was one other thing that I wanted to bring to this today, and I think we covered it, but really this idea of not working on the relationship, but working on yourself.
Right.
I think, it's one of the, if you're new and you haven't done any transformational work and you happen to listen to this, contact us and about the breaking through process, part 1 and part 2. We can explain how it might support you. Look at what you're looking to create, and having an environment like that to begin to work on your context. One, begin to discover it. So part of what happens in the training, people begin to discover what's underneath that's generating my actions.
Right. So what's your context?
Yeah, what context am I operating from? What context am I choosing from? As we become aware of that, then we can look, is this consistent with what I'm committed to creating? If it isn't, then you can start working on it. If it is, great, do more of that. But if it's not, then we can start making changes, or you can start making changes that will support you on being on track for whatever it is you want. So it's about really working on yourself, discovering you. Actually, part one is called the discovery, and it's a process of introspection, right? Looking and discovering what's my context, what's been generating my results up until now. Are my results consistent to what I'm committed to? If not, then you can start altering your course. And so I highly recommend checking this out. If you've had friends that have done the work, talk to them. If you'd like to talk to someone, Kathy and I are both available. You can reach us here on Facebook, or you can contact us through our website via email. You can contact me at 954-445-1206, or you can call Kathy at 772-519-0043. I got that right? So much we push our buttons now.
Yeah. Who remembers phone numbers anymore?
So I want to ask one more question before we sign off. And just asking people, we started doing these things in the afternoon. I know a lot of times that people are working and the videos are always available, but we'd love to have more interaction and get some feedback from you. Would you like to see us doing like an evening broadcast, evening live broadcast? If you would like to see evening broadcasts, please comment on the video or send us a direct message.
And you can always, if you want to ask us a question or interact with us in some way, you can always leave us a message, and we can answer the question the next one, right? If you watch this after we've done it, you can always
you can comment in the comments or send us a message directly.
And we'll be happy to talk about whatever topic you want to talk about, or answer any question that you may have.
So I want to thank everybody for watching today.
Yes.
And for those of you that watch it from the video. And we really appreciate your support and love sharing whatever we can share that might support you at creating what you want. And we will be back next Thursday. Until we change the time, it will be the... and Yita said that this is a good time for people with kids.
Oh, good. Okay. Yeah.
Cool. It's been so long. It's been so long since we've had kids.
We have adults. We don't have kids.
Yes. And for those of you who don't have grandchildren yet, this is another recommendation. Skip kids. Go straight to grandkids. Your life will be wonderful. I don't know if there's a way to do it. They're better than kids. Let me tell you. I love it. Our grandchildren just turned 14, and our grandson turned 12 last summer. Or not in April. And so it's been a heck of a ride and wonderful journey. Thank you all again for watching. We will see you next week.
See you next week.
Ken and Kathy with Cushman Coaching and Consulting. This is Let's Talk About What Really Matters.
Bye.
Oh, I would say this. Share, like, or subscribe. Stay connected with what we're doing.
Yes, definitely.
Bye guys.